Dan Ives, Managing Director and Senior Equity Research Analyst at Wedbush Securities, is with us today. He's well known for his deep expertise in the technology sector and specifically Tesla. A longtime Tesla bull, Dan is one of few institutional analysts who sees Tesla as a robotics AI company. He has said recently that Tesla's AI and full self-driving represents a $1 trillion of value alone over the coming years. Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, great to be here.
So we're all going to be, or you and I are going to meet, hopefully, at the Robotaxi event. 1010 is a big one. What do you think that Elon and Tesla needs to do for this to truly be turning, not just turning a page, it's, writing a chapter, it's a completely whole new book. What would he need to do to convince, the investment community that this is a robotics AI company?
Yeah, I think three things. One is showing the path to full autonomous. I think that's something that's always really been debated. And I think that's why I think next week's going to really be the start of an autonomous future of Tesla. I think the second is showing what we'll call cyber cab, or however you want to think about it in terms of on a robo-cab perspective, showing the fleet approach, giving timing. I believe within a year or earlier, this starts to get phased in terms of how this ultimately gets introduced. And I think the third thing is showing like how big that they think this could be. I think there's super excitement around this event, and I don't think we walk away from this event with a shrug of shoulders. I think this is going to be a game changer relative to how I think many, from an institutional perspective, start to view this company.
Okay, so from your perspective, as long as they lay out the robotaxi program, make it credible, and I agree with you, it needs to be something launched within a year. I've been saying 6 months, but when I listen to a lot of the other institutional analysts, like I think you and Morgan Stanley and ARK Invest, of course, stand out, but the rest, they're still talking about expecting a $25,000 vehicle, and that is what they think is more important than the robotaxi program, which they think is, yes, it'll happen, but it's like 2040 or 2030 plus. What's your perspective? Do you expect a lower cost vehicle, like a $25,000 vehicle?
Well, but Herbert, many of these are the ones when Apple was 400 billion, viewed it as a hardware company, and now it's 3.5 trillion. The point is that creates the opportunity. So I actually don't view that even as a bad thing. They will not show any sort of Model 2 sub 30K vehicle. This is all going to be about robotaxi, autonomous future. And what I believe, and I think this is really where the bell is going to go out for investors, what could FSD penetration be for the 6, eventually next year, 8 million vehicles out there? What could FSD penetration truly be on the fleet?
Do you think that's more just, it's easy to calculate and for sure that that's going to happen? Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because it is interesting that people are still expecting the $25,000 vehicle. Of course, if it comes, great, but this is the transformation, and they're like not believing that it's going to go to a subscription SaaS robotaxi model. Yeah.
But look, again, me and you have had multiple conversations, along with, a lot of your team members.
Yeah.
And my whole point was, you go back to earlier this year, stabilize the ship, which they have.
Right.
Lay out the strategy, which they have. Look at even deliveries this quarter relative to other auto companies. It's a standout. You can't even compare. Yeah. Now it sets the stage for the next wave of growth. And I continue to believe it is the most undervalued AI play in the market. When you think I will argue that FSD and autonomous is truly the biggest use case when you think about FSD for AI.
Yeah, agreed so much. So yeah, when we talked last, it was the height of the pain. There was so much pain for both Tesla stock and the company. And you normally you have been for many years, and even now, very, very bullish, very, very supportive of Tesla. But you, the beginning of this year, you started to get pretty upset, and you said the biggest issue, frustrating thing for you was that Tesla was not communicating the story correctly. And do you feel like they've addressed that? I mean, I felt like that the last presentation by Elon was just banger, perfect everywhere
That was
across the
one of
board.
the best. I think that 2Q call was one of the best calls in the last few years in terms of transparency, communication, laying out the strategy. And I think it was really a turning point in the story.
So you're much happier with the story. And so the big story for you is stop the bleeding, which they seem to have done.
Mhm.
Economy's turning around. And so now it's a growth stock, it's a story stock, but now people can start buying into this.
And we're not talking. I mean, the bears will continue to say, "Oh, this is 5 years, 10 years." It's not.
Right.
I mean that. Look, if I think about the two biggest events and maybe the three biggest events in tech in the last 5 years, I could point to NVIDIA in terms of everything Jensen talked about, and ultimately Blackwell, and really the core of AI in terms of everything launched. Two is Microsoft and OpenAI in terms of that partnership. And I go to this as really one of the huge moves. When you think about AI, you had Apple, which is going to be AI in the consumer in terms of iPhone 16, and now Tesla. This is going to be the FSD future.
Okay. So when I listen to a number of analysts now, okay, I'm not going to name the names. I've done many shows on each of them. What I will hear many of them now say, which they haven't been, right? So first, last year was Tesla's an auto company. And then finally, 6 months ago, it's Tesla's an auto and energy company. Now you're hearing them say, yes, Tesla's an auto, energy, and FSD, and a select few will even mention the bots. But they would keep their price targets flat. And you're going, how do you believe in FSD, but you don't? And when you look deeper, they're going, yes, robotaxi will happen, but in 2040. So tell me, how come you believe it's not, at least like you're saying, it's got to be within, 2040. It's like within 5 years is what you thought, which I agree.
But to me, I mean, our career has been built on sometimes maybe seeing things others don't at the time.
Yeah.
Whether it was Microsoft or Tesla or Apple or Amazon or many of the others. I think this is one where we're not talking 2-3 years down the road. This event is happening for a reason. It's because they believe, and I think Musk is going to unveil it.
Mm-hmm.
This is something we're talking 6-12 months. And I think also, I think a Gen 1 will be able to test drive.
All right.
And it starts a new chapter for Tesla, which is why I view it. It's a historical day, not just for Tesla, but I think overall automotive industry and even tech industry. Trust me. I mean, I was in Asia a few weeks ago.
Right.
Every company, every investor, this came up in terms of robot, because everyone, whether competitors in the industry, AI, chip players, they're going to be watching around the world.
Yeah, I love it. What's your reaction to the name of the event becoming called We Robot? Are you expecting to see more, Optimus, of course, or other bot form factors? Or is that overreading into what this is?
I think and I know you're very bullish on Optimus. Yeah. And hey, look, and I think Optimus is going to we could have some sort of snippets of it, but I believe that will be a separate event. It said one point in 2025. I believe this is really going to be geared around the autonomous future and really the robotaxi fleet.
Okay. So, for robotaxi modeling, you've got ARK Invest that's been famously pointed out their robotaxi model. Elon Musk has repeated, I think, 4 times in the last earnings call that he likes ARK Invest model.
Yep.
Then just 2 days ago, Morgan Stanley dropped their robotaxi model. I just did a full review with that with Cern Basher, and we think that they're being very, very conservative, like ridiculously conservative.
What valuation did Jonas put on it?
God, I just put it in, but it's like he's only expecting 150,000 robotaxis. He just specifically only focused on Tesla-owned fleet of robotaxis, and at that point it'd be like $700 billion.
But I think that's only a small subset of what the market's. In other words,
yes, And that's
See,
2030.
no,
So it's like,
see, and that's why I think the big debate here,
yeah,
and I hear it from investors, is, oh, it's just their own fleet. How I'm like, no, that's not
exactly.
it's a much broader market that we're talking about. I eventually see OEM, and I think, a lot of
Yes.
other areas that this is going to head.
Exactly. Well, thank you. See, again, very refreshing talking to you. It was odd that they did this, but you know what? What happens is, my interpretation is institutional analysts are being dragged into this, and then they
But
go, okay, I think I have to create a robotaxi model, and so then they're going to try to create the most conservative idea that they could come out.
but Jonas does. I think Morgan Stanley does great work,
Right.
and
Future.
Jonas
Yeah.
Jonas does great work in terms of like future. In other words, like let's
Yeah.
think about where this ultimately could head.
They do. I agree. Morgan Stanley's and you and ARK Invest. So licensing, do you think that there's going to be some sort of announcement for licensing and partnerships? What's your percentage chance?
I think they're gonna talk that they've been contacted, and I think there
Sure.
could be a lot of potential partnerships that they feel that they could announce. In other words, I wouldn't expect them necessarily to announce it next Thursday, but I
Yeah.
think it's going to show the monetization path is not just about Tesla doing it themselves. Because when you think about just broader autonomous, and you could be like, okay, Waymo, how many companies are we talking that legitimately could be the leaders in autonomous? Two.
Mm-hmm.
Waymo with that, and Tesla has 6 million vehicles out there, and ultimately, like when you start to think about the billions of miles driven, so that I think that's going to be a big focus too in terms of showing why that's such an advantage relative to what they're trying to accomplish.
So you travel quite a bit. Like you, more than most analysts, you actually go. I don't know how many times you've been to China this or Asia this year alone. It's just crazy.
A lot.
You just came back again. So when you do that and you visit these guys, which company, which OEM are you thinking is the most likely? Do you think it's Ford? Is it Hyundai? Is it possibly BYD? Who could partner with Tesla? Because remember, he
I mean,
said that it had to be at least 1 million vehicles capacity.
but I think you're going to have partnerships on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have partnerships on the China side and partnerships on the US side. So I don't view it mutually exclusive. I just think this is almost like a multi-step process. Do the event, lay
Mm.
out the strategy, and I think as this all sort of seeps in from an industry perspective, you realize, as I think from an OEM perspective, there's a huge opportunity here in terms of where this is all heading. But I actually think institutional investors are going to go one step further. They're going to be like, okay, what's FSD penetration
Mm-hmm.
today for Tesla? If they could truly get to the next level after, we'll say V13 and others as they introduce it, and you start to think what could penetration be from an FSD perspective within their fleet, I think that's
Yeah. So
very,
you're
very
saying that
significant.
institutional investors after this event, what I'm hearing from you is that you're not overly, what's the word, overhyping what's going to happen. All you think is as long as in the event they just produce a robotaxi with some sort of kind of proof of the model, that's enough. And then if they do V13 to convince other institutional investors, that's just the FSC take rate is enough for them to just get started, get their feet wet, put that in there, and then they start planning forward. Okay, I like that very much.
And the technology and showing the moat, showing the technology moat. That's the key. That's
Yeah.
why I believe it's as important as going back to like a Model 3 type launch.
Well, why is it that no one else is, or and analysts don't say, well, Tesla's the only one that has a Cortex and the only one that has Colossus, largest supercomputers in the world, but they don't give that any value yet. When would
But
they
that
give
could,
that value?
but that continues to be why, some view it as an auto company. And we've talked
Mm.
about, I strongly disagree, view it as disruptive tech. And the more disruptive tech and the more that they show this, they're going to continue to get more and more of that valuation. But that's so different than like Nvidia was viewed as a
Right.
gaming maker. And
Yeah.
people, but no, just go back to some of the conference calls. 2000, 2001. Jensen, why are you spending money on this AI? That's ridiculous.
Yes.
Let's fast forward a year and a half. Microsoft, I cannot believe you invested $10 billion
Right.
in OpenAI. You mean the OpenAI that just had a 5x valuation?
Right. Okay, gotcha. So are you expecting at the event when you're there? And I think from my estimation, talking to some folks, they invited some select few analysts. Of course, you're one. We know a few others. Do you think there's a reason why they're doing that? Or did you always attend every event? I mean, I know you were always on the phone calls.
We've been at most of their events over the years.
Okay, so it's nothing new to you that you were invited to this.
Yeah, but also it's like, look, I mean, you also like it's very important that people go there. You have to be like understanding where the technology is heading and understanding where this opportunity is. And I think it's going to be a historical day for Tesla.
What does it need to be historic? Like, you know, when do you consider the iPhone event that Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone
Of
one
course.
of the historic events? It is, right?
Historic. Sometimes historic. At the time, I remember being at the iPhone event. Like at the time,
you were
felt
there?
like it was historic.
You were there, like in the audience.
You felt like it was historic.
Yeah.
But it was only in years. It became historic, but you felt like it was historic. That's kind of how I view this event.
Okay, and then are you expecting an actual ride? Like you will actually use the app and you get into one?
I think that is like, I would expect that that's definitely a possibility that I would expect.
And then what's your expectations? What's your guesses of what you might see there?
To me, I'm really focused on the technology, the roadmap, showing where this is heading, and what I view finally, now years in the making, taking off the curtains, what they've been working on.
Yeah. And then if they announce, so when I asked this question, I would get 9 out of 10 people are telling me, Tesla retail analysts, saying that they believe that Tesla's going to announce a human supervised ride hailing service. So it's very similar to Uber. I can put in the Model 3 that I own into the network, but I'm going to physically be the driver or the supervisor of the FSD. Do you think that that's something that they might do? Because Morgan Stanley, by the way, said it, and so did ARK.
I mean, I think that could be something that happens, but I don't necessarily think next week that's a focus.
I don't. Yeah, the people are saying that could be the first thing that they roll out initially, as you wait for the robotaxi model to reveal itself in 2026. That's when they'll do that. And then during that period of time, it's going to be a ride-hailing service.
I get transitional. I mean, these are all possibilities. It's just I'm not going into that being like that is going to be the silver bullet.
I'd be so disappointed if that was what they said that they're doing for the next year.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like I go in not like crazy expected, but I go in like I'm expecting like get the popcorn out. Mm-hmm. Like this is going to be something special.
So this is you and Morgan Stanley and ARK are a little bit more forward-looking, and you understand this, and you've been spotting trends ahead of time. What about the regular analysts? What do they need to see other than just, you said FSD take rate?
Anything else? For them, for them, because I think a lot of other analysts, they want to see like show me the path, show me the roadmap.
Mm-hmm. Where's it going to look? But they might not believe it, right? Because they always say that's fine. Elon saying it.
That's fine. But I think some maybe they're like, you know what? I was skeptical, but that's pretty interesting. So I'm saying like, it's not. It's about Tesla could only do what it does, but I think it's going to turn heads in terms of what this event will be.
Okay.
But no, it's great. Great seeing you. Herbert.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this, Dan. Thank you for giving me your time.
And I'll see you next week.
See you next week. See you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.